What is your cadence for the same page meeting and for your clarity breaks?
A lot of people treat it as a luxury item, something that I'll get to when I've accomplished all the other things that are in my mind or on my to-do list. When you don't preserve that time to think about your thinking,
right,
we really get lost.
Yep.
And suddenly our clarity of thinking and decision-making is not as good.
Right.
Our team members actually notice too. So when we're thinking about harnessing human energy in our leadership teams, they need us to be clear-minded. I have a lot of passion for coaching and content around that I'm working on, but it's also for EOS Worldwide, is getting EOS to every corner of the world.
Hi, Coach Bob here, and I am the host of Viva La Visionary. Very excited to have Kelly Knight, and President and Integrator of EOS, correct? Is that the right title?
That is accurate, yes.
Ooh, I love it. And we've been good friends, I'm honored to say, for 10 years now?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And to be, not only watch you be not just a great integrator, but have vision for how to implement the vision of EOS and the vision you have for yourself in your life. I mean, I know a little bit about it, but you really think it through with intentionality and for your family. And you are, in my opinion, you're a visionary and an integrator. I don't know if we've officially tested for that, but excited to have you here. So just wanted to get, I'd like your story. So how did you end up here today? So, in a couple minutes, some of your experiences and what brought you to EOS and where we are today.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you, and you are a dear friend. And August will be our 10-year anniversary.
That's right. Wow.
So our friend,
woohoo, party.
Yeah, friendversary.
I like it.
So, my getting here is really, for me, still an interesting story because I spent 18 years in the financial services industry, which I loved. It was a really fun ride.
Right.
But one day I was sitting at a table, it looked much like this, and looking out at an amazing group of people who I managed and I led, and really wonderful people, but also simultaneously thinking, I am miserable. I don't enjoy this anymore. Everything that I've ever come to do, I've done, and it's just felt over.
Right.
So that was a moment that I prayed and I said, I promise I will follow anything that comes my way, no matter how different, whether I'm qualified for it or not.
Nice. You are a visionary.
And so I go on this trip with a girlfriend to Vancouver, and I have this horrific accident where my shoulder gets dislodged and I'm in excruciating pain. Right. And candidly, I'm on multiple narcotics. And so I fly back to the United States and I'm back working and probably in no condition to be having a phone call with anyone, much less a recruiter. But at the time I pick up the phone, someone calls me, and it was the recruiter for actually becoming the integrator of EOS Worldwide. Right. So Gino Wickman, the founder of EOS, and his business partner, Don Tinney, had been working on their succession plan for quite some time. And Gino had found his successor. And it was now Don's turn to find his successor. So it was really in that moment on drugs, having a conversation.
All right, so the key is on drugs. You are a visionary.
But anyway, that was the first call. But what really was interesting is that it was so different from what I had ever done. But so exciting and such a breath of fresh air to learn about something as amazing as EOS that makes a huge difference in the world, helping entrepreneurs and their teams get what they want. And so I just almost immediately fell in love with it. I knew nothing about EOS. I had ironically read the book Rocket Fuel, which is one of the Traction Library books for visionary integrators. But I really did not understand that was part of EOS and that was really who I was. Although when it was handed to me, was said, I think you're an integrator. You might want to read this book.
Interesting.
But then I flipped through the book and didn't read it in its entirety. So it wasn't until I became the integrator that I then read Traction and read all the other books. And of course, I've just, again, fallen in love with it because not only do we help entrepreneurs get what they want from their business, I really feel like EOS changes people's lives for the better, and that's what keeps me engaged.
Right. No, that's awesome. And I am not diminishing Mark O'Donnell, who's the visionary of EOS, when I say you're a visionary, but you have vision, which, again, I think some of the best integrators do have a fair amount of vision. Because if you're dealing with a big visionary, how can one keep up if you don't play in that a little bit? So I'm joking, but I know you have a lot more vision than I think maybe you realize. So how would you describe vision? What is vision?
Well, I think it does mean different things to different people. For me, vision means the ability to see ahead of what others might see, or to see things differently than someone else might see them. And so for me, my visionary business partner is a 10 quick start if you look at Colby.
Yep.
And I am a 6, so I am not as much of a quick start as he is. But I think that compatibility of that difference is made up by first of all, great commitment and desire and passion for EOS, but also the fact that I do have ideas and visions of what something should look like, what it should feel like, what the experience should be, which is great mapping for Mark being the visionary and his just seeing, 100 steps ahead in terms of big ideas, big relationships, creative problem solving. He's a big R&D guy. He's in the workshop tinkering and thinking about things, and he himself is an implementer with a handful of clients, so he stays really connected grassroots to working with visionaries and seeing the future there too. So I think we're just a great complement. I do feel as though the vision that I have as an integrator does help that relationship to be a great VI duo.
Right. No, I agree. And I used to be a visionary coach, and I realized I'm a vision coach, because I'm not teaching people how to be a visionary, but I'm helping people how to tap into the vision. And that could be anyone. So what's your vision for your role? What's your vision for your rocks? What's your vision for your life? Even with my kids, do you have a vision? Well, I don't. Well, what if you did? Oh, then they start to think about it, call it forth, imagine it, do some research, and then be aware, like you were aware, to say, okay, bring it. And it came true.
Sure. So vision is developed. It can be developed, right?
Right. Because as Gino talks about, visionaries can't necessarily be taught, or someone can't be taught to be a visionary. We're born with it. And yet vision can be taught. So
that's an interesting distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what have you learned about that?
That anyone can have vision, but a lot of people are afraid of it because it's like, I have no control. And maybe we don't have control, but we can have thought toward it. And our conscious, subconscious, unconscious, as I put it out there, then the opportunities come up. I'm much more aware of it if I thought about what it could look like. So for my kids, it's I want to play D1 baseball somewhere warm. I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. So then we work on that, and then Princeton calls, and he's like, well, it's not warm or fun, but it's D1 baseball, and it's Princeton. So, but because he had vision around that, and my daughter was on the mechanical engineering path, and yet said, you know what, my vision is to help kids to know God loves them. And so it was like, oh, maybe it's teaching. So, so again, neither I don't think are visionaries as we talk, and I don't like to over-label it, but I don't think they're the typical, I'm a 9 quick start. As you know, I'm kind of all over the place, a little scattered at times. But I think we can teach vision. Again, where do you see yourself in 3 years? Which I think a lot of people don't know how to even go there.
What I found in being your friend and sitting together for many a great meal and just talking about life is you really get people to paint a picture and to visualize it.
Right.
So I think the visual for some really helps to connect to the vision.
Right.
And that's an important piece.
Appreciate that. And being a mirror. Yeah. So again, getting people to open up to say, what if? Because I think a lot of people are afraid to even think about it because they don't want to be disappointed. And I think that's part of visioning, is to have a vision, take some accountability, so entrepreneurial, to take some risks, try it, own it. And if you fall down, which we're probably going to fall down, get back up and either keep going or realize maybe it's a time to do something different.
That's right. Well, experimentation is, part of the fun and the joy of life generally, and true of business too.
Right.
And that experimentation has a lot to do with vision.
Yes.
And it's seeing something and being willing to risk and try and do it, tweak, hone, and refine.
Right.
To fail, get back up and do it again.
Right.
So if you can let go of the attachment to the fear of failure, which is really just human, I think, in a lot of ways. But if you can let go of that, boy, what vision you can have and what you can do.
Right. And when I get it out of my head and I share it, and other people are like, ooh, interesting. And so that's the collaboration that EOS helps, for the vision for the company. And what are our core values? What's our 10-year? What's our 3-year? And so again, if we're all in it together, we're actually moving toward it. But even as I learned from Gino years ago, when we're all in alignment, it's amazing what happens. And some of it is truly tactical, but part of it is, I think, kind of mystical.
Well, it is. We talk a lot about how EOS is a system for managing human energy,
Right.
but it's getting all of those arrows, the arrows represented by people,
Right.
pointed in the same direction. It's incredibly challenging to do that, especially as organizations get bigger, because there's simply just mass.
Right.
You're going from 10 people to 100 people to 1,000 people. It's not easy.
Right. Well, it's interesting. One of my clients, because I implemented for 10 years, I'm now doing other things with iMatter and coaching the visionaries and their leadership team more on the human side. But going back to some of my clients and, again, reworking with them, I've kind of reframed the entrepreneurial operating system isn't just for the entrepreneur. It's own your own role, be entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. So that's been a kind of an aha for me that, we can be entrepreneurial. It doesn't mean you have to own a business.
That's right. That's right. And just taking responsibility for your own self,
right,
and how you fit within your team, how you fit within an organization, how you fit within an even larger ecosystem.
Right.
But when you don't see yourself as having the capability, or maybe you don't think that you're responsible for your own part,
right,
I think that's where there can be a real disconnect to vision. And so that's where so often I see on our team at EOS Worldwide and just in general in our community, if people can't see themselves in the vision,
right,
you can feel lost.
Yes, for sure.
So it's important to get that connection.
Right. No, I love that. So EOS has grown from when Gino started it, and he said, this is all we're ever going to do. And he's intensely simple. Yes. And I love Gino.
Yes.
But then as you had your investor come in, and then you guys started to grow. So tell me about that vision, and then I believe you kind of come back to basics, correct?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. I mean, it's a full circle moment.
Sure.
So we start with Gino and Don,
right,
original visionary integrator of EOS Worldwide, founder, creator, decides to take some time and take some chips off the table. So It was May of 2018 that Gino and Don say, hey, we're going to go do some other things. We're going to pursue our other passions, live our EOS life.
Right.
So it was May of 2018 that Gino and Don sell the company, and we have new stewards come in, new owners come into the business, private equity. And of course, they come with their ideas. You know, they want to see EOS fully maximized and realized in every possible category. So things like doing some mergers and acquisitions and buying the EOS conference and buying Rocket Fuel and some of these other ancillary things. And let's build software as an example. Who better to build EOS pure software than EOS Worldwide ourselves?
Right.
Well, so some of those things that we ended up going and doing really took us away from our core focus and just detracted from the thing that we do better than anybody else on the face of the planet, which is to serve entrepreneurs, implementers primarily, that's our core target market, in a pure way. And so what happened was, it's a little bit like it gets diluted. Each little slice of something that you do takes you further and further away from that core focus. So for every acquisition we did, for every merger, for every new marketing strategy that was over-the-top marketing or serious radio that doesn't resonate with our target market, which is the plumber next door. That's who we serve. That's who implementers serve. And then building software just kept us taking further and further and further away from your core of what you do really well, what your God-given talent is. And so suddenly one day you wake up, which Mark and I did one day, and we look at each other and we say, wow, we have to stop.
Right.
It's enough is enough. We got to go way back. We got to strip everything back to the core essentials.
Right.
And so you're going to, a group of stakeholders. So remembering that it was, when I came in 10 years ago, there were about 100 implementers.
Right.
Well, then we are at 913 implementers, going to 1,000 within just a couple of quarters. We're going to be at 1,000 EOS implementers worldwide. And so you get to the point where you say, look, we serve a lot of people. We have to do the right thing. So you have to name it and claim it, admit that you've made some mistakes, and then share with your stakeholders what you're going to do about it.
Right.
And so that's then when we sell everything off, we get rid of it, and we just come back to this core central piece, which just feels so good. You kind of lose yourself in it for a while, and it's painful. It's so incredibly painful to have to pull back and go back to that core. It took us 18 months, 18 months straight to go back to the basics, to simplify and to delegate and to predict and systematize and all the things that we teach with the leadership abilities at EOS.
Right.
We had to
walk the talk. Right.
We had to eat our own dog food,
right.
Bob, and go back. But now we've settled into this space where it just feels right. It's so much easier. Everything glides and is smoother.
Right.
So, my passionate plea to those that I talk to is really be careful. Distraction is the enemy. And stay focused. And for every little thing, you might think it's just this one thing.
Right.
It's just this one little sliver that we're going to go off in a different direction. Be very careful because it's a slippery slope.
Right.
And you're sort of defying what you say is true in your North Star, which is our 2-page business plan we call the VTO.
Right, which is brilliant. Well, I applaud, like we mentioned earlier, that we might fall down and fail. I don't feel it's a failure at all. Again, you tried something and it might work, it might not, but then you got true to yourself and then refocused with passion. So again, that's even what we're teaching other people, that it's okay to try something and not succeed, because if we don't try it, we're going to probably do this.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. But you can mislead yourself to believe things that aren't true. And I think that's part of the process is,
right.
You can justify and rationalize just about anything. Like when we're good salespeople,
right.
we can
sell ourselves.
we sell ourselves on this crazy stuff.
Right.
And so it's that looking in the mirror, slowing down
yeah.
to really think about our thinking before we make decisions and ask, is it really true?
Right.
Is it really true that this thing we're about to go do is 100% aligned with
right.
our core focus in our niche and who we serve? Is it really true?
Right.
And then if it is, then just make sure that you're really grounded in why you're doing it. What's the context there? Make sure you're sharing it and then be willing to change your mind later too when you
right.
see things go off course. We could have changed that course and that trajectory faster.
Right.
So you learn.
Well, yeah, we learn. So I learned from Gino that as we grow, it's evolution, and then we hit the ceiling of complexity, and that's more people, that's technology, it's virtual, and yet if we don't have revolution, we're either going to slide back or go down. And yet when we revolutionize, which visionaries I think are very good at, kind of blowing shit up and moving forward, so that could be as a person, as a department, as a company. Mm-hmm. What I've realized, and I want your thoughts on, that when I was thinking about my coaching early on, it's like I'm coaching revolutionary entrepreneurs. And then I realized it's teaching evolutionary entrepreneurs, because I'm very good at blowing shit up, even if it doesn't need to be. And a lot of my visions have come true. It's just often been a lot longer than I thought. So like you said, slow down and be patient. So I don't know if you have any comments on helping, does it make sense to help us visionaries that we're just so anxious? And I've had different coaches and mentors just say, what is your rush? And it's just because I don't know if it's I don't know. I just feel like I have to rush. So I'm learning to slow down and become more evolutionary and patient. Any thoughts around that?
I do. I feel like every great visionary needs a great thinking partner,
yes.
a great strategic thinking partner, somebody who loves and revels in sitting in that space of slowing down with you.
Right.
To almost like kind of like I visualize holding your hand a little bit, like just to slow down and be patient through the process of thinking it through, pressure testing it.
Right.
Playing some devil's advocate, like, well, gosh, that makes me think about this. What about this? Oh, that might tie to that other thing that's, been important to us, or solving a problem for our implementers or whatever it might be.
Right.
But when you actually have somebody who cares that much, which I like to think that's what I am for Mark.
Right.
I'm just that person who I'm in it with you. We're stacking hands. We care so much about who we serve and what we mean in this world. Let's just sit in it and figure it out. So sometimes for hours on end, we'll just sit and think about something and talk about it, banter back and forth. We've called it playing tennis. It's just a little bit, he might come with an idea and then I'll listen and I'll say, oh yeah, that really ties, that makes a lot of sense, Mark. And that might actually solve these other 3 issues that we've got. How might those connect dots? So you're just kind of sitting in it and letting it mull it over. There's no judgment. There's no criticism around it. It's a beautiful place to be.
Right.
You don't even have to decide in that moment, but you're building on these ideas over time. And so I think that's part of evolution, is just having that, I don't know, I feel like it's luxurious, almost seen as luxurious these days to have that.
Right.
But it really shouldn't be. It's the most basic of relationships and caring about each other. So
right.
I hope and wish that every visionary or any person who has vision has that person who can hold that space. I call it holding space.
So how did you, because everything you said, most of what you said to me is around trust. So how did the two of you build trust?
Well, Mark had no sights on being the visionary of EOS Worldwide at all. It was not on his game plan. It was not on his bingo card at all. He is a very successful entrepreneur. He becomes an implementer, a coach, and then head coach, which is, for those that might not know what that is, that's the coach of the coaches. For our implementers, he's head coach at the time that COVID hits. And my business partner, who was a visionary at the time, had decided to go back to being an EOS implementer himself. And so during COVID, I'm running the company as the integrator. Right. But I have a lot of vision around me because I have implementers and I've got coaches and I've got Mark O'Donnell, who's head coach. So during that time of COVID, we're an in-person organization. Literally overnight, 90% of our revenues are in jeopardy. Not sure if the company will survive it. But Mark O'Donnell is head coach. He and I say, well, there's not a lot we can control, but the thing that we can do is we can help people. So let's do some IDS sessions, some issue solving for entrepreneurs in pain during this really critical pandemic. So that's what we do. So we end up having 800, 1,000 people showing up to these Zoom calls in the middle of the pandemic. Issue solving, how do we survive this crazy pandemic? And it was in those really, it's through difficult times, through challenging times that trust is built, because you're having to say and do things and figure out big, complex problems in sometimes a short time frame, under duress, under really hard times. So I think that's really what happened, is we were just pressure testing live time, a relationship that wasn't intended to be a visionary integrator originally, but it was in those moments that I suddenly, I don't know, maybe it was a month or two in, I'm looking at him thinking, we're going to be going back out to market for a visionary. Or looking within our own community for a visionary. And it was in those moments that I came to him and said, I think you're the visionary of EOS Worldwide. And to which he said, no. No, I don't want that. And then we kept working together. And then I asked him again, and he said, no, still a no. And then I'm like, man, I really think he is the one. He just doesn't know that he's the one yet. So I come back one final time and I say, look, I know you've told me no. I'm going to ask you one more time, and I promise if it's not for you and you say no, I will never bring it up ever again. And of course, you know the answer. So it was that third time he says yes. I actually think that this is what I want to do, because his personal core focus is to help 1 million people lead better lives that they love. And so that became the path to his being able to fulfill his own personal core focus, is by being the visionary.
That's awesome. So what is your cadence? I know when I work with visionaries, the two things that EOS definitely puts out there is the same page meeting and clarity break. And most people blow that off. And it's like, oh, it is so important. But like most of Gino's things, and I was around it when he created it, I'm like, that's stupid. That's too simple. But that's part of the elegant brilliance of what he created. So what is your cadence for the same page meeting and for your clarity break?
Well, these are two things that we're really disciplined about. I mean, they're just so central. So every Monday, first thing in the morning for 90 minutes, that's our same page meeting. And it precedes our level 10 meeting, which is the meeting we have weekly with our leadership team. One time per month, we have a 3 to 4 hour longer same page meeting where we're working even more on the business. So when we're growing a lot, we feel like that really helps us to have that once per month. And then clarity breaks for me are every Friday.
For how long?
About an hour. Sometimes a little shorter, sometimes a little longer.
And it's fascinating. I think this is ego or human behavior, that it's like, well, as soon as I have time, I'll do a clarity break. It's like, well, when I take a clarity break, I have more time.
That's true. That's the irony, isn't it? You think it's, a lot of people treat it as a luxury item, something that I'll get to when I've accomplished all the other things that are in my mind or on my to-do list. But when you don't preserve that time to think about your thinking, we get lost in the noise. We really get lost. And suddenly our clarity of thinking and decision-making is not as good. Our team members actually notice too. So when we're thinking about harnessing human energy in our leadership teams, they need us to be clear-minded. They need their visionary and their integrator to be at their very best. So if you think of it like that, like it's selfish, actually to not do the clarity break because you're depriving people of your best, suddenly that clarity break doesn't feel like a thing that you can miss anymore.
Because often when I slow down and listen, I'll solve something that was distracting me from being present. So what is that worth? So it's just, and that is, as a lot of people talk about, when we're young, we have so much creative processing, if that's the right word, but then as we go through school and society kind of beats the creativity out of us. And so for me, when it's clarity break, it's a time to spend time with my favorite person in the world. So no offense to anyone else, but when I spend time with myself, whether it's a safe space to hear myself think or feel myself feel or get something from my dad or something greater than myself, it's magical. And now I'm taking 3 or 4 clarity breaks a week for about an hour.
Wow,
and
that's fantastic.
It's because I was with Gina recently. We did our annual retreat, and we measured like how much time are we spending at work on ourselves, with our spouses, and what shifted is probably 6 hours less of marketing and biz dev and time for myself. So that's creating blogs, using AI to unscatter the chatter, and then putting out blogs, but even just thinking, and it's been magical. So I recommend clarity breaks.
I do too. And everybody's is different.
Sure.
So yours is multiple times per week. That's what you've recognized in yourself that's what you need. But everybody's a little different. But again, you got to slow down to think about, what do I even need?
Right.
Do I need 1 a week, 3 a week, once a month? I mean, everybody's different. But I think it's definitely one of the most underestimated components of EOS and the tools is the clarity break.
Well, and with AI now, and I want you to comment on AI, but we can't keep up with that speed. So I don't think I should try to keep up with it. But now when you say to have a thinking partner, AI is becoming one of my thinking partners.
Sure.
By just asking questions and getting, here's what I hear. And that's been fantastic. So it's not dictating what I'm doing, but it's helping me to think and get creative.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I'll actually give Mark O'Donnell credit for this because this is really he that came up with this, but I think it's an interesting component to AI. He's very much an innovator, so he was always on the cutting edge of AI when it first came out. But, AI is great for logical things in many ways. Not that it can't be creative, but it's logical. It's drawing upon what's already been created.
Right.
Whereas the human component, you and I sitting here together, that's the psychological component.
Yep.
And that's what can't be replaced, at least not today, by AI. So if you begin to separate out the buckets of things, or what are we trying to do here, you can use AI as a thinking partner, just understanding its limitations and also not taking it as it's necessarily always right or it's the right thing for you. You've got to use that discernment to review what we're getting out of it and pressure test, is it actually what's the right thing for me to do? It might be good for somebody to do who puts that prompt in, but is it the right thing for me to do?
So shifting gears a little bit, Visionary Summit, I know you're familiar with that. We have our 10th one coming up in September, and the theme is Visionary Intelligence. What's your VQ?
Oh, that's cool.
So I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts. I know we haven't talked about that, so I don't mean to put you on the spot, but what would you call, what is visionary intelligence?
Well, I would ask you first, how are you capturing it for those that are coming with you on this experience?
So I admit I haven't spent a ton of time on it, but again, it was a vision that came that as visionaries, we're not above or beneath anyone else, but we're different. And so to me, visionary intelligence is slowing down, making time, listening, being patient, connecting with other humans, and again, dealing with my ego that it's trying to protect me from getting hurt. So when I'm in the flow, like at 4 a.m, it's like I'm so clear. And that is kind of visionary intelligence. But then all of a sudden when it's 10 a.m. and I go to explain it to you, I'm like, no, that's stupid. That's not going to work. So sometimes I don't share it. So again, safe partner to write with. Again, AI has helped me just to say, hey, organize my thoughts. But to me, it's about the human side. And so my vision for the summit coming up in September is to, we'll have probably 30 people at the summit. So between now and then, I want to start having conversations around it. And while we're there, we have 3 amazing people. One is Jeanette Wade, who one of your first implementers, and she talks about the human team. And then we have 2 other people. So we're going to be there experimenting, pushing and pulling. And what is visionary intelligence? So the goal is to then use AI and ourselves and write a book like in the next 30 days after that.
Cool.
So that's my next
neat.
book.
That's neat. Well, so thanks for sharing kind of your perspective and putting that together. What it makes me think of is visionaries are really the problem solvers for the world.
Right.
They bring us out of the greatest challenges like the pandemic. They're the ones that lead us through. I mean, think of our American forefathers and what they did.
They risked their lives.
They risked their lives. They're courageous. They're intuitive. They're drawing upon every capability that they've been given to do really hard and challenging things. And I think visionaries really save the world. So if you think about visionary intelligence, it just makes me think of what are the capabilities that are unique that you bring to the forefront that really do change the world for the better.
Right.
That's what I would like to think of it as. Because doing something just for the sake of doing it might be fun, but I mean, the most rewarding things that I've ever done, and most people I talk to, and probably those that you talk to too, Bob, the greatest reward is on the other side of doing something that really makes a huge difference.
Right.
So,
And making a big impact.
that's right.
So part of it, this is great. I appreciate this conversation. I feel as a visionary, often it's all on my shoulders. And so the visionary intelligence is to understand I have a role in it and maybe what we could do, maybe the why, but not the how. And so to not have to be the hero. And again, EOS helps to build the team in the process so I don't have to. But I know a lot of visionaries, I have to do it all. And I think one of the hardest things for visionaries is to let go of the vine. Mm-hmm. And I think personally, a lot of people are afraid to let go of the vine because they're used to, it's their habit, and they don't know what life beyond the vine is. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's also to understand, first of all, it's not all the pressure for me to figure it out. And I do get frustrated sometimes when I have a vision and it doesn't work exactly the way I want, but it's like, oh, it actually worked out over here. But I had a vision, I acted on it and pivoted and realized. And so it's not all up to me, but to at least kickstart it as the visionary.
Yeah, that's right. Well, visionaries are very high responsibility people, right, in my experience, very high responsibility. So handing over the reins of anything or the baton, whatever analogy, right, you want to use, is really hard because you want to take care of everybody in your sphere.
Right.
And so my personal experiences is talking to hundreds of entrepreneurs, many of them in EOS, some, right, of them in the Strategic Coach program with Dan Sullivan. I love getting the chance to sit with those entrepreneurs because one of the hardest challenges they have is trying to take what's in their head, take an idea, make it real. Clearly, that's an integrator that is meant to be the visionary integrator counterpart.
Right.
But even the integrator can't do it all either. So how do you really get right people in the right seats, right people who adhere to your core values, your vision, and people who can actually do it? That's the get it, the want it, the capacity for, right, the seat. But it's really hard for entrepreneurs because it's hard to see how do you get that all the way down through an organization. How do I really let go?
Right.
So it's an iterative process. And I think it does require a thinking partner to help you get that all the way through the organization. So it's very common.
Right.
I also think as I'm coaching integrators, many of them I say, do you really love that process of helping your visionary to, right, extract out of their head what's the true gold? What is a great vision? Do you love that process? When some of them say, honestly, I don't. Right. I don't love it. I am more thinking about my to-do list and the things that I want, right, to go get done. To which I say, you're not a real integrator then.
Right.
So some of this, Bob, is I would challenge that for visionaries, you deserve that great thinking partner. And if you have an integrator who doesn't love that process, or you don't have an integrator, really look for that person because they're the ones that are going to help you release all of that out to an organization or a group of humans. But you have to start with that one person who believes enough in you and, right, believes enough in your vision that they're going to back it and go make all the rest of the handoffs happen.
Love all that and have the confidence to be a mirror and push back on those things and have a real, yes, conversation.
Yeah.
Because I've had really organized people that do everything that I say, which everything I think of is not the right way to do it necessarily. But to say, okay, I hear you. And then with discernment to say, is this the, mm-hmm, right time? Mm-hmm. And then the how. I'm not good at the how. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, but that too is an art because if you are a strategic thinking partner, a business partner to a visionary, the key isn't to shut everything down.
No.
It's to allow that process to unfold and to become a rich conversation, and then figure out if something gets filtered and it goes to a long-term issues list, or actually it's a no because of this reason it doesn't attach to our core focus.
Right.
But I think a lot of really great visionary ideas just get shut down before they're even started.
Right.
And it makes me wonder how many visionary ideas that are really great that would have worked never even made it even to the cutting table because it just was prematurely shut down. So one of the things that I encourage others like me who are integrators is to just sit in it longer than might feel comfortable for you, because that's where a lot of the gold comes out. And we can't go implement everything, of course. It's not what I'm suggesting, but I think things get cut too short.
Totally agree, because years ago, I was Gino's third client, 20-some years ago, that I would bring up a crazy idea and people go, oh, there goes Bob chasing squirrels again. And I'm a little dramatic. Everything's great. Oh, and so then I'd be like, fine. And then I'll stop bringing up ideas, which I own. But I think sometimes when we get over-processed, I think some of us shut down. And so I think that, to encourage, so I appreciate you saying, first of all, let the visionary share. Most of my ideas that I bring up, I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. But if I keep it up here, I go crazy. So I need a place, and that might be in the same page meeting or whatever, but to have a place to, again, a safe space to hear myself think is huge.
That's right. That's right. It's part of the process of letting go. And if you can't get it all out of your head, it's stuck there or it's stuck here in your heart. Because if it's something that's really important to you and you don't get a chance to share something that's meaningful because it keeps getting shut down, you're losing all that gold. There's so much genius in visionaries, and it really is just having a process for that conversation. And I think there's not enough. It might sound kind of boring because visionaries don't always love process, but if you actually have a process for how you are able to work with your strategic thinking partner, it can actually give you relief, because you know that in that process, you're going to have the chance to think all of your thoughts, get all of them out, and you're going to leave feeling you're going to have more relief, even if not everything is implemented or not implemented now.
I don't want to do everything I think of, but I just need to get out of my head.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
I was on a podcast 6 months ago, and someone asked me, okay, Bob, as a visionary, how do you deal with the depression of your vision not being realized? And I was like, whoa. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, I've had this idea and it's not going to work. So that was a profound question. And that's when I also realized that it's, again, not failure if it doesn't happen, and to be patient. Because I realize almost all the visions I've had have come true, not the way I thought they would necessarily. And I thought it would be 2 weeks and it might have taken 20 years. Yeah. So my time is a little different than most.
Yeah, the speed could be a real issue for somebody like you who's, again, a high quick start.
Right.
So you would love it done tomorrow, and it might be 3 months or 3 years, but it does eventually happen.
Right.
For you.
So what's your vision for Kelly and your future? Again, I think you are a visionary and integrator, but what's your vision for, not necessarily the world, but your world, and what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, a good part of it is some of what we've talked about today. Is I feel like there's a lot of coaching and capabilities of getting out of visionaries' heads and helping others to see, other integrators and visionaries, really how to have that great VI duo relationship.
Right.
And Rocket Fuel is incredible. It's essentially the Bible for the VI relationship. It's very much more what it is, though, rather than the how. How do you do it? And I think there's a lot of texture there. So I have a lot of passion for coaching and content around that I'm working on. But it's also for EOS Worldwide, is getting EOS to every corner of the world where we have target market.
Right.
Rich opportunities to find right fit EOS implementers and serve entrepreneurs that are target market, 10 to 250 employees that are growth-minded, open-minded, looking to become their best. So I've got a lot of passion for that. And we've been called EOS Worldwide for a very long time, but the truth is we've only really developed a robust international plan more recently through our franchise system.
Right.
So I'm very excited about that.
I appreciate all that. How many visionaries have found their replacement? That's not something I've seen happen much, which is what Gino did. So he had the foresight to say, I'm not the person to take it to that. He had a vision and he nailed it. And as it went to the next thing, he was like, from my understanding, he didn't either know how to or want to do all that. Mm-hmm. So are there many visionaries who found their replacement?
No, I mean, most business owners don't even sell their company.
Right.
I mean, what, 80% or more of all business owners never sell their company.
Right.
So therefore, they're not finding their successor because you often need a successor in order to sell the company. So it just doesn't happen. I mean, Gino is one of those very rare people that is both a visionary and an integrator in the sense that he can plan and think through and very intensely detail oriented and very focused.
Right.
And so he saw many years in advance, 10 years in advance, when he was going to exit the business.
Right.
Who he wanted to tap on the shoulder to become his replacement. Then it would be Don's turn and what that would look like.
Right.
And so there's just a very unusual, top 1% kind of thing.
That's what I thought. Right.
Yes. But I do feel like more could do it if they had a roadmap on how to do
and
that
the team
and how to think through it.
Right. Because I feel a lot of visionaries say, well, as soon as I get my business in a place that I can sell, then I can show up. You can show up today. You can be a visionary for multiple things, but be available to your team. But I think a lot of people feel they have to get rid of that. That's what I felt. And in hindsight, I could have done a lot of what I was doing and kept my company. Because I sold my first one 26 years ago. But
there's so many different ways to do it. You can go into the owner's box. You can be, somebody who's an advisor or a navigator. Gino did legitimately sell the company in 2018, but he was a navigator to me for 5 full years, where I would meet with him once a month, half a day in his Livonia implementer session room.
Right.
And I would come with my most pressing issues and he would bring things that he thought that he could teach me.
Right.
And so what a luxury that is to have that opportunity to learn from somebody like Gino. So lots of entrepreneurs, founders can do that very same thing. You can find fulfillment in helping others to replace you or to continue your passion, your baby, and carry it on.
Well, it's interesting when Gino first said that he wanted to find his integrator, I said, well, I could do it because I was very passionate. And he's like, oh my gosh, you would be amazing for about 15 minutes. And he's right. Big guy was very passionate about EOS, but I'm not an integrator. Sure. So I had how I remember, so the 10-year target is 10 to 30 years or 5 to 30 years. And Gino in, I think it was 2006, I'm making up a number, but it was by the end of 2020, we would have 10,000 implementers.
That's right.
And I'm making this up too, but it was 5 to 8 that he had at that time. It was implementers. So it's like, okay, you have 8 implementers and you're predicting 14 years out, you're going to have 10,000. I'm like, you're crazy. And how I remember it, in November of 2020 in Dallas, we hit 10,000.
We did.
So did he see the future? Did he create the future? What's your thought on the 10-year target?
Well, I think Gino is a great predictor, which is one of the leadership abilities. So I think that 10,000 was a number that he had probably spent a lot of time thinking about. It didn't just pop into his head and put it down on paper. But we say 1 quarter at a time. Gino, in the early days, you probably remember this. How in the world are we going to get from 10 to 10,000? And he said just 1 quarter at a time, little by little by little. And there is a lot of truth to that because along the way you do figure out what needs to be true to hit that number.
Right.
For us, it's 100,000 companies running on EOS with the aid of an EOS implementer by 2035.
Right.
We're at 33 and some change right now. And when I get asked that same question, how in the world are we going to get to 100,000? I say, I don't know, 1 quarter at a time.
Right. I appreciate that.
So it's a combination. There has to be discipline and rigor around some of the thinking and the prediction. But the truth is, you could create a goal and tomorrow you're not exactly sure how that's going to happen. And that's just letting go of that, having to know exactly what has to happen for the next, X number of quarters between now and then.
Right.
To let go of it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So any other words of wisdom, experience shares for visionaries, either personally, professionally, because you've dealt with a lot of us. So any other experience shares, any nuggets for us?
Oh, gosh. I mean, one is just trust your instinct and intuition. Of course, we're data-driven. It's one of the 6 key components, but I really believe that entrepreneurs leaning into your God-given unique abilities, instinct, intuition is where all of the gold is, and again, changing the world. And so don't be shut down by what you feel and you experience. There's something to it. Whether the person sitting in front of you believes in it or not, it really has no bearing on whether there's actually value to it.
Right.
And so it's more encouragement. I think I encourage entrepreneurs to lean into that and trust yourself.
I appreciate that. I have one final question, but any other questions or thoughts for me?
Yeah. So I want to ask you, so you've said you think that I might be a visionary. What makes you think so?
Because I know you pretty well. And again, maybe not the wacky visionary like some of us are. And again, you're both, in my opinion. But you see you do see, maybe you don't have all the ideas, but you're a great integrator because you have enough visionary in you to say, okay, here's where Mark's going, or here's where Gino's going, or here's where Bob's going. And you can go and play there. A lot of integrators, I don't think can, or people who maybe aren't great integrators. So again, I don't know if you're a visionary, but you can play in that space. And again, I think a great integrator can, because you can be like, that's awesome. Let's talk about it. And then, okay, does it make sense? Is it now? Is it later? What does that look like? So I don't know if it's just visionary, but you can play in that space, if that makes sense.
Play in the vision sandbox.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So like in your life, so I keep coming back to that. So do you feel you use your vision for your life and for your family? Because I hear you do. Just when I hear how you think things through.
I do. Well, yeah. So my husband tells me about a week ago, because we're planning for our last of 3 kids graduates high school, and we're having a big, huge graduation party with a lot of stuff going on. And so my husband called me extra. He's like, honey, sometimes you are just really extra. But the extra is my vision for how something will look, feel, the experience behind something. I'm very excited that my husband, Tim, and I will be spending more time in Florida, where we've got a little second place, and visioning all of the places we want to go, the things that we want to do, and kind of curating that next chapter of our lives. So I like to think that I'm just looking ahead and thinking about the experiences that will help us feel like we've lived a life worth living.
Right. And I think part of the reason I think visionary, when I think of you, is and you mentioned this, but you have the feeling behind it, the story behind it, what it could look like and feel like.
Yes.
And that's sometimes up to us visionaries, but not always. I mean, again, if there's an integrator who can say, here's what Bob was saying, it's like, well, I said the same thing, but you say it differently. So I don't know, maybe that's not vision, but it's explaining the vision.
It is. Well, it's translating
the vision.
Translating a little bit, just so that it lands with everyone. Sometimes I can see where something hasn't landed with someone. Wasn't that the visionary said it did or said anything wrong at all. It's just being observant of what you're seeing and the people around that need to understand it. And so I land the plane.
Right.
That's really all it is.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So before I ask my last question, I want to compliment you, because I've been a part of EOS since the beginning, and as it grew, and as I coach companies as well, people feel left behind. And I realized that as EOS was growing and Gino wasn't the main person anymore, it's like, oh, it kind of left me behind. But because of your leadership, your caring, you make time for people, it is one of the reasons I'm still involved. So I just appreciate your leadership and wisdom and friendship. And
well, thank you.
You're amazing.
Well, likewise, you are amazing, and how you support our community. Being a part of our community doesn't mean that you're an EOS implementer necessarily.
Right.
Being part of the EOS ecosystem is really about the care and the love of helping and supporting each other in lots of different ways. And you do that.
Awesome.
Thank
cool.
you.
So my last question. This is called Viva La Visionary.
Okay.
And so what does Viva La Visionary mean to you?
So living the life of a visionary is just pursuing your passion with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and putting everything you got, not leaving anything, just leaving everything on the field, everything you got. That's what it is.
Right.
Don't ever looking back with regret, feeling like you've done everything you possibly could to make what's in your head and your heart become reality.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Love you, Kelly. Thank you for your time.
I love you too.
All right. Appreciate it.
Thank you, friend. Thanks for having me today. It's
Peace.
a lot of fun. Peace out. Yeah.